Hey guys, Stockaholics, thank you guys for being here today. Hope you guys are doing well. I wanted to talk a little bit about the oil tankers and share what's been going on, and then kind of share some of my thoughts surrounding the segment. If you guys don't know, the oil tankers so far this year have been doing quite well. The product tankers in particular have done extraordinary, but overall the crude market has actually been quite good also. As a result, the share prices in these companies has also done quite well, especially when you compare that to the backdrop of the oil overall stock market. Now, what's been causing these good rates and good share price performance? Well, it's none other than the Ukraine war that is currently taking place and the European Union's response to that war. The Europeans have imposed a lot of sanctions on Russia. So instead of importing as much oil as they had and some other commodities as they had in the past, they've been reducing their imports from Russia. Now, this hasn't stopped Russia from exporting their oil. Instead, I've read some articles saying they've actually increased their overall oil exports from Russia. But that oil, instead of going right next door to Europe, has been going to much further ton-mile routes for on water. They've been exporting oil to places like India and China, much farther away. Okay, and that's led to some tightness in the overall market. But at the same time, Europe still has energy needs, and they've also been importing more oil from much farther routes also. Now, the product tanker segment has, like I mentioned, done extraordinarily well. And it seems like this is because of a confluence of events. First of all, the war is having some backdrop, but we're also in the summer driving season. There's very low inventories, so all over the place. So those inventories are being filled up with product tankers best they can, wherever they can. And it seems like something that a lot of the product tanker CEOs have been talking about for a number of years, particularly with refinery closures in Western countries. It seems like that is also having an effect on the overall ton-mile demand for product tankers. So places like Australia in particular have closed all of their local refineries. And so that means that there's even more demand for, in terms of distances traveled for those products. Um, Now, going back to the European Union, they've been uh, they've been doing more stricter and stricter sanctions over time. By the end of this year in December, they plan to ban all Russian oil imports into the EU. So as crazy as things are now, it has the potential to get even more crazy when you consider that this is the strong season for tankers as well. The winter, the quarter 4 tends to be some of the best performing months for oil tankers. Now, there's another thing that's been taking place in the background too, right? We've been in kind of this overall energy shortage that's been taking place over the past year or so. And it seems like there can be a real energy crunch at the same time during this winter, where you might even see some things like increased fuel switching in in Europe, where they might even be, as if they can, be burning oil directly. So it has the potential for them to have even more more oil import demand. So which is crazy to think about too. Now, what's even crazier about all of this is, if you think about shipping companies, what do they do while they are making tremendous amounts of money? They tend to reinvest in their business. They tend to go out and buy some shiny new toys. They go out and buy some new ships. Well, the availability to buy new ships is pretty restricted because over the past couple of years, the container ship market has just done so well. And these guys have just ordered more and more and more and more ships, basically flooding all of the shipyards with orders. So it's very difficult to get a new ship in much of the ways that for these oil tanker companies, in much of the ways that it has been in the past, at least at prices that make sense. So they could buy some new ships, but it would just cost an insane amount of money, right? So despite all of these crazy earnings, it's unlikely that you're going to see uh, uh, oil tanker fleet growth in the coming years at some of the rates that we have in the past. What this period kind of reminds me of is the 2003 period where Iraq was invaded by the United States. So what this caused was some dislocations in oil imports all over the world, and it really kind of jacked up the oil supply chain. Same kind of thing is happening right now with Ukraine and the Russian war, where the European sanctions are causing a very similar dislocation in the market. Now, recently I made a video talking about super cycles and how I kind of see them as a result of US money creation. If you're interested in that, go and I'll put a link somewhere to that video I made. But basically how I see the what I think is a coming super cycle is because of US money creation causing more kind of global demand for commodities. Now, right now, you can see that a lot of commodity prices have been dropping in the past couple of months. And this is because, in my opinion, they're not being, the commodity prices have not been supported in money creation in much of the same way that they have in the recent past. So recently, we've seen a lot of things like US stimulus and things like PPP loans, which I talked about. But basically, it flooded the United States, and as a result, some other countries in the world with a lot of US dollars, which are used to purchase commodities. Now, we have seen a lot of bank lending ticking up in the last year, particularly through the US housing market. And this money that is it started being created about June of last year. Now, this money, it takes a lot longer to hit the system in much the same way that all of that stimulus money has. Now, what's crazy, if you think about this money that is being created and all of the other stuff that I just mentioned, again, the oil tanker market, in my opinion, is not being supported right now by this money creation. But this winter, the oil demand and overall in the world, because of this money creation, it seems like it could also be impacted increasingly because of this loan creation. At the same time that I mentioned that the EU is increasing sanctions, at the same time there's a seasonal strong period for oil tankers, and it's kind of nuts. Now, despite all of this stuff that I mentioned, it's kind of crazy to think about because basically I see nobody really talking about oil tankers at all. It seems like the interest for these oil tankers has been at some of the lowest levels I've ever seen. I just basically don't see any interest, which really tells me that I think that there is a tremendous opportunity in this space right now. But anyway, those are some of my thoughts on the oil tankers. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below.